There have been many, many goals that I have set out to achieve and got really excited about them and burned out before I got to it. So many New Year's resolutions that I was so excited about, right? And excited to plan and excited to buy the supplies that go with achieving this goal for mid-February to come and me to be over it. And I know I'm not alone here. I know that this happens for so many people. But last year, I actually stumbled upon a system that I'm going to do again this year. I had so much success with it. And if the story feels familiar to you, this might actually help you as well. You are listening to Skin, Earth, Vitality, the podcast where ancient wisdom meets modern vitality. If you are seeking to reconnect with your innate vibrancy, you're in the right place. I'm Emily Davis, a seasoned holistic esthetician and herbalist. Join me as we unlock the secrets of ancient skincare practices, explore the beauty of seasonal and nature-based living, herbalism, and true holistic well-being for you and the broader ecosystem. This podcast is brought to you by Stratum Aesthetics. Head to stratumaesthetics.com to find curated skincare, body care, and other wellness products hand-selected by me. Now enjoy the show. So welcome in. My name's Emily. I'm an herbalist, a holistic esthetician, and my podcast is all about living well and living with vitality and feeling beautiful both in your skin and in your life. And a lot of what I talk about is living with the intelligence of nature. And so that's what this episode is all about today. I want to share how I stumbled into seasonal goal planning, seasonal living goal planning, and it was totally unintentional. But if you're new here, welcome. I'm so grateful you're here. If you missed last week's episode, it was all about how to care for your skin during the winter so that your skin feels comfortable and juicy and just looks glowy and plump and all the things that we want. And in the spirit of this episode, in the spirit of showing up in my structures that I've created and am creating during the winter, I'm showing up today, even though I have a sty on my lower lash line. Can't wear makeup. It hurts. But when I set my goal to really grow my YouTube channel this year, I knew that I was going to have to show up on camera on days when I didn't. The beauty of the podcast being just audio was that I could just show up on a Saturday night in my pajamas and record. And so it's a little bit different with video. So bear with me today and let's get into it. So imagine January 1st comes and you're not rushing to be a brand new person. You're not rushing to create output and live in this brand new routine that you've decided is the best way to live to achieve the goals that you want to get to. But instead, you allow change to happen in stages and sequences that build off of each other to create actual lasting change. And that's what happened for me last year as I tapped into seasonal year planning. So let's think about what happens during the seasons outside of our window, because surprise, surprise, you actually are nature yourself. And so living in congruence with nature can serve you. So in the winter, energy draws inward. Plants are going to root down more deeply. They're going to create stronger structure within themselves. And then spring comes, and this structure, this deep rootedness allows for growth and direction as plants are using their stored resources from the winter. And then in the summer, this growth and direction allows for blooming and expression and expansion. And then in the fall, growth slows and nutrients are pulled back from the leaves and the stems, and plants let go of what's no longer needed and return it to the earth to create fertile soil. And this sets everything up perfectly again for the winter when plants are rooting down into the soil again. And so it's this cycle that continues over and over again. And none of the phases can get skipped over, right? Because each season prepares the ground for the next. And if one phase is passed over, then resources aren't allocated as well and long-term growth isn't possible. I mean, think about it. Like maybe there's a late winter warm spell and a plant has some premature growth. Well, it's not going to do very well when the cold returns. The buds are going to die and the plant has fewer resources for the true spring later on. And as I said, I stumbled upon this last year. So early last year in the winter, I was working on some of my money mindset to go along with financial goals that I had. And I was working with a business coach, and she's also a money mindset coach. And so she had this practice that she wanted us to do, which was to just have a touch point with your finances every day. And so the practice is to have a notebook where every morning for just 5 minutes, you're not allowed to do it for longer than 5 minutes, you just open the notebook and record money in and money out. This isn't anything to do with accounting. There's no balancing happening, no math happening. You're just recording money in and money out. And you're checking in with your body. You're noticing how you're feeling, how you're reacting to this whole system. And the point is to come to a place of neutrality. And I just loved this practice because over time, what happened was when spring came and as summer came, I was actually orienting to my finances in a completely different way than I ever had before. I was budgeting in a totally new way. I was being really proactive in a new way and just doing things in a different way than I ever had before, in a more positive way. And this is after, I've read every money mindset book under the sun. This is after years of this practice. But what really changed for me was doing the simple structure every day. And then once that became normal, I changed my identity around finances. And then I was able to make different choices and different actions based on this new identity. So it also worked with other things. So in the winter, I had a goal to work on my consistent writing practice. And so I just started every single day sitting down for at least 15 minutes to do some type of writing. And if after 15 minutes I wasn't feeling it, fine, close it up. You've done your 15 minutes. That's great. And what actually happened is this created so much growth and so much normalcy in this practice for me. And by summer, I did a challenge, which I've done many times before, which was an essay a day published for 30 days. And this is hard. I mean, this means you can't edit what you've written really. There's not a lot of time to go back and look at everything you've said. You've just got to make it and publish it. The point of this is to overcome perfectionism, so that's a good thing, but it's really hard. And I was able to do this very successfully during the summer because I was harnessing the energy of summer, and it led to more clarity for the business than I've had in a very long time. It led to me actually quitting Instagram. It led to me having a better direction of where I wanted to go. It led to me wanting to build the YouTube channel and actually switch over to video for the podcast, which I had wanted to do for a while. And so all of this clarity just built so much momentum for me. And then in the fall, I did my fall shed. So if you haven't listened to my episode about what the fall shed is, I'll link it in the show notes here. But the fall shed is basically my yearly practice where I declutter my entire life. I go through my physical life, my closets, my junk drawer, my garage, the basement. I go through every single thing. I go through my digital life, my financial life, my relationships with people, literally everything. And I declutter and let go of what's not necessary so that I can root into what I truly care about. And that obviously set me up for the winter, for rooting into what I truly care about and working on creating systems and structures for the goals for this year. And I just loved this. I just feel like this created such a shift in my life that allowed me to make more progress than I have made in years in my business and in my house and just all of these different areas. And I think it's because when you're working in these sequential steps and building off of the last step, you're creating an ease in your life that you don't get from traditional goal setting frameworks, which I'm a high achiever. I love a goal setting framework. I have achieved many, many goals that I've gone after using these, but it's never been so easeful and natural before. And I think that's because traditional goal setting jumps straight to execution and it kind of surpasses all of the other steps, like the identity shift that you need to make in order to achieve goals. There's this heavy focus on output and willpower. And I think that what happens with this type of goal setting is your energy gets really scattered. And that's why so many people get burnt out by spring. And I feel like this system that I stumbled upon is the antidote to that. It creates room for you to figure out where you are right now as you're setting the goal. It's also creating space to allow these changes to settle into the way that you operate day to day because you're repeating the same thing over and over again until it feels boring and normal. And then what I like most about it is it's solidifying the resilience in you to be able to face the obstacles that are going to inevitably come up, like doing the thing during a hard week. And these phases of growth aren't going to produce immediate change, right? But they are going to set you up for sustainability and longer lasting change and growth. So in today's episode, I really want to dive into winter, and I will do a whole episode for spring and then for summer, and then I'll do another fall shed episode next year. But today let's talk about winter. Winter started a couple of weeks ago. We are quickly approaching the new year for 2026. And in some of the content that I've seen on the internet, people just love to be a contrarian and they love to hate on the Gregorian New Year, which is so funny. But I've always been like, well, I don't know. Like, I actually feel like winter is the perfect time for the new year to happen because spring is when new growth happens, but we actually wouldn't have gotten that new growth unless we had the winter where there's two parallel things happening at once. Like, we do have the surface dormancy where everything, appears to be paused on the surface, but down below we have roots deepening and and we have structures solidifying, and we have what's called vernalization, which is where seeds undergo cold exposure so that new growth is available later on. And in the winter, that human parallel is, it's just such a beautiful time for introspection and planning and dreaming, but it's also a time that we can start building structures. We can look at the big picture of our lives and what we want in our lives, and we can decide what needs to exist before the growth to achieve that is possible. And so we can start planning out the systems and the structures, and we can start to engage in them with repetition. And with repetition comes identity shift. And identity shift is the biggest thing that needs to happen for goals to be achieved and to be sustainable. And so what I mean by this is you have many different identities that you see yourself as based on stories that you tell about yourself. So, maybe an identity might be I'm bad with money, or I'm good at money, or I'm a fit person, or I'm not a fit person. So these are just all identities. Every single person has different things that they identify with, whether it be conscious or unconscious. And so as we create system and structure in our life, and as we do these different habits day in and day out, it builds a new identity. So in my example from earlier, when I was talking about these money touch points, it started to build this identity for me that I'm somebody who is well aware of what's happening in my finances, in my business every single day. I'm well aware of where I'm leaving money on the table, or how money is being spent in the business. And it just totally shifted the way that I see myself, which then shifted the actions that I take without even thinking about it. And this isn't about pretending that you are something that you aren't, or I love affirmations if they're done correctly, but it's not about just saying I am good with money every single day. It's about relating differently through that constant contact that you're having with your habits. So with that being said, let's talk about how to actually do this. I've put together 6 steps to start creating your structure for winter to help achieve your goals. So step 1 is to just write out all of your goals. Grab a notebook, grab a pen, and list every heart's desire that you have for this year. Don't edit it. Don't hold back. This isn't really about creating a plan. It's just showing you what you actually want. So make sure that this is something nobody is ever going to see, because I find that when I think somebody's going to look at it, I kind of water it down. Write out everything that you really truly want. From that, you can probably decipher some different areas. Usually the goals that I have will have different themes. And I would say don't pick any more than 4 things that you really want to work on, because if you try to work on everything all at once, oftentimes that's when things fall off. So pick 4 areas, maybe 2 from the work side and 2 from the personal, or whatever it may be. Pick 4 things and start thinking about your relationship to these areas. So we're not thinking about outcomes, we're just thinking about our relationships. So how do I want to change my relationship to money? How do I want to change my relationship to movement or to consistency? A big one for me this year is, how do I want to change my relationship to my creativity? Step 3 is to ask the question, what structure can I create that can allow me to show up consistently for this relationship without any drama. It's really important for me to take the drama out of stuff. Like if I'm wanting to go to the gym more often, I have to take out all of these stories that I tell, like, well, I need a new outfit. I need new shoes. I need this, this, and this. I want to just take the drama out, and what's going to change my relationship to showing up consistently. There's a great book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And in the book, he talks about just creating a goal of getting in the car. It's not the goal of getting to the gym and doing your whole, whatever program. It's just getting in the car or just tying your shoes or whatever. So what structure can you create that's going to take all of the drama out that you can actually show up to consistently? And so step 4 is to build small, repeatable, boring systems. And this has to pass the test of, with this system, could I actually show up for this during a very low energy week in February? And this should also include, like, what's the minimum version of this? So for me, with the finance check-in, it's literally just 8 a.m. I have to open my notebook and write money in and money out. That's the absolute minimum. And I can do that any day of the year. I can do that if I'm sick. I can do whatever. So, if we're thinking about movement, maybe that just means that you have to show up for at least 5 minutes, even if it's just to stretch. You can definitely do that on a low energy week. So whatever it is, what's the small, boring system that has a minimum version that you could show up for that would count as showing up? And then step 5 is to make it physical. When you can see it and touch it, this makes it a lot easier to show up and build momentum. So this can look like you have a certain place and time that you do this structure. Maybe there's a dedicated object. Maybe you have a notebook that you already have sitting out. Maybe you have your yoga mat already ready to go. It's rolled up by the door, ready to hit yoga class. Whatever you can do to remove the decisions and the friction is going to be really helpful. And then finally, step 6 is to market. I don't know where. I think this is also from Atomic Habits, but I love to get a sticker every single time I do the thing, and I put the sticker in my calendar, and just being able to see that consistency makes a huge difference to me. And from a writing class that I took a couple of years ago, there was a big thing of you can allow yourself to miss one day, but don't miss 2 days in a row, because that's when you start to fall off, is when you start missing 2 days in a row. So one day is fine. Life comes up, obviously, but then try to get back on it that second day so that you're not creating excuses days on end. So those are the steps. That's literally all you have to do for this first quarter of the year, is create sustainable systems for yourself. And then come spring is going to strengthen what we've already stabilized. Spring is going to create growth and more direction and more forward movement. So I hope that this has been helpful. It's all about creating sequencing so that you can have more sustainable change in your life. If you enjoyed this episode, I actually wrote a Substack essay about it, so you can go back and go through the steps again. I'll put that in the show notes. I would love if you would send this to a friend if you found this valuable. I'm sure that another like-minded person would also find it valuable. And if you're listening to this on a podcast platform, please rate, review, and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And if you would like more, head to the notes where you can find the link to sign up for Moonday Notes, which is my weekly love letter newsletter that I send out every Monday. I will be back next week, and until then, Be well. You've been listening to Skin, Earth, Vitality. If you like what you heard today, consider giving me a 5-star rating. It helps other people just like you to find the show. You can shop products and find all of my offerings on my website, stratumaesthetics.com, and follow me on my social channels at Stratum Aesthetics.